James, Letitia James, James Comey, they are all fighting against President Trump, and specifically Lindsay Halligan, because they don't think Lindsay Halligan was appointed lawfully and that these indictments should be thrown out, dismissed, and done with. So what we're going to hear is we're going to find out what's going on with Lindsay Halligan. If it's looking like, based on what we heard from the recent court proceedings they had, that she may be disqualified and these indictments may get dismissed. Let's see what they are talking about here as we hear from a former Trump attorney. Check it out.
Lindsay Halligan. Today's hearing lasted more than an hour, and a ruling from the judge could come at any time. A ruling that may conclude that Lindsay Halligan, who has never tried a case in her career, is not qualified to serve in her job and is legally not able to be in her job. And that means cases against James Comey and Letitia James could be over.
Ooh.
Out front now, former Trump White House lawyer Ty Cobb. So, Ty, this was an important day. The hearing just over an hour about Lindsay Halligan and whether she has, whether she's allowed to be in her job. Will Halligan be disqualified and her indictments tossed out?
I don't think so.
She will be disqualified. The Comey indictment will be tossed out. And may not be able to be rebrought because the statute of limitations has lapsed. The James indictment is likely to be tossed out as well, but it can be rebrought, as Abby Lowell conceded today that in her situation that somebody may reactivate that case.
So, I mean, it is pretty stunning to imagine that we're in this moment, Ty. It really is. At one point in the hearing, the judge was expressing really serious concerns about another aspect of this, which isn't just whether Lindsay Halligan actually was legally in her job when she signed the indictment, and appeared to make the case, but that in front of the grand jury, there was a part of the Comey grand jury arguments and conversation that actually wasn't recorded. You'd always have a court reporter in there. There would be a transcript of everything, and there wasn't. And the part that's missing covered a crucial event, the actual end, the final minutes of the grand jury session on the day the indictment was returned. What could that even be about?
So if it's intentional, it's prosecutorial misconduct of the highest order. Now, it's conceivable there was a technical glitch. It's conceivable there may be a recording. There are a lot of things that we can't rule out at this stage of the game. But the Justice Department's statement later today in response to this issue highlighted the fact that this was during the deliberations, which are not recorded typically. So this was during the deliberation period. But that ignores the fact that this was not an easy deliberation. They threw out the first count of the Comey indictment. So, and that would have been the most complicated discussion between the prosecutor and the grand jury. And for an inexperienced prosecutor to navigate those circumstances, which are extremely rare, is virtually impossible.
And of course, that was the situation, right? As I said, has never tried a case before. So you think that they're going to say she is not legally in her position, and that these, for sure, the Comey and possibly the James as well, could be tossed. I want to ask you about one other really important thing here, Ty, which is the Deputy Attorney Todd Blanche, and very much in the center of everything today with these big developments on the Epstein files. He is trying to fight back against serious criticism about his conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell. That's the conversation.
Okay, we're not gonna get into Epstein here, but I want to know what y'all think about this, because it's seeming like this man is saying that Lindsay Halligan is going to be dismissed. Letitia James, although her indictment may be dismissed, there still could be something there that could be rebrought against her. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look into what happened and what went down during the court proceedings. And y'all check this out here.
Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James argued the interim U.S. attorney prosecuting them was unlawfully appointed to her role. MSNBC legal affairs reporter Fallon Gallagher has been inside court all morning. MSNBC senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin's back with us. Fallon, I understand things have wrapped up. What do we need to know?
Anna, the big headline today is that there is no decision from the judge on whether Lindsay Halligan was unlawfully appointed. She did say that that decision will come by Thanksgiving, so within the next few weeks.
Wow.
As far as the proceedings, the government and the defense both made arguments that we've seen in a lot of the briefs. The defense went first. There was a lawyer speaking on Comey's behalf who basically argued that this is another example of the administration violating the appointments clause. They are saying that Lindsay Halligan was unlawfully appointed and therefore ineligible to serve as the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia when she secured both of these indictments against Comey and James. They went on to argue that this is a separation of powers issue because if the Attorney General can appoint an acting U.S. Attorney on an interim basis for 120 days, like they're saying that they can here, then that bypasses congressional authority and also judicial authority to keep these U.S. attorneys in place. The government responded that that is completely invalid and that this is merely a quote, paperwork issue. They went on to say that the Attorney General has, quote, broad authority to appoint as many 120 days terms for these U.S. attorneys as they would like. Now, the judge seemed a little bit skeptical of that argument, that I would say during the defense's presentation, she mostly listened and looked straight forward. When the government was arguing, she asked some more questions and some were more pointed. Specifically, she asked about a decision in the Jack Smith case, which I think Lisa can actually speak to quite well.
Lisa, go for it.
One of the things that she seemed to ask the government as they were on their way out the door, essentially, do you think that the decision by Judge Cannon in United States versus Trump, that's the classified Mar-a-Lago documents case, was wrongly decided? You and our viewers may remember that Judge Cannon invalidated Jack Smith's appointment on the grounds that it violated the Constitution's appointments clause. Why? Because he constituted an inferior officer based on his powers that should have been nominated by the president and Senate confirmed, but in no case simply appointed by the Attorney General. The point Judge Curry was trying to make, or at least was insinuating, is that Lindsay Halligan is really no differently situated than Jack Smith. The whole point of the special counsel regulations is to empower the special counsel to behave as a sort of 95th U.S. attorney in addition to the 94 judicial districts. If the special counsel's authority is really functionally equivalent to that of a U.S. attorney, and the special counsel can't be appointed by the Attorney General without confirmation by the Senate and nomination by a president, well then, what does that have in store for Lindsay Halligan? The government, as I understand it from Fallon, really struggled to answer that question directly, sort of twisting itself into knots. You can see how that would be a problematic position to defend, how Jack Smith's position was invalid and yet Lindsay Halligan's position is okay. I will tell you that there are some minor differences in that a U.S. attorney is always subject to the supervision of an attorney general. That's not necessarily true, though, with respect to a special counsel. Those regulations said that a special counsel can do certain things unless essentially the attorney general says they cannot. That having been said, the attorney general had power to fire a special counsel. The attorney general doesn't have power to fire an interim U.S. attorney. So there are some differences here.
The law is so
her
wild.
Focus on Judge Cannon's opinion is not a good sign for the government's position in this case.
Very interesting. So let me know what y'all think about this moving forward. It seems like it could potentially be a chess move by, we'll say, the Department of Justice. I know a lot of y'all want to say President Trump. Maybe. It seems like this is a chess move by the Department of Justice to maybe just get the indictments out there and move forward. So they bring in Lindsay Halligan. She's appointed by Pam Bondi. And they say, all right, we got the indictments there. Now Letitia James, she's shaking. Now James Comey, he knows that we're going to be pursuing this. And then moving forward, we can address that. And if it's by Lindsay Halligan, it is. If not, we'll have somebody else take on this task. Let me know what y'all think about that in the comments and in the chat as well.